Tracy, can you hear me?
I can, governor.
I've never done this with video camera in our face. I like it. It's all good.
She's into it. She's into video.
Okay, calm
She's
down.
into home videos.
Welcome to That's Showbiz, baby. Thank you for joining us this week. This is a part 2 to our Missionary Position podcast episode. So if you haven't heard the first one, go back to our previous podcast episode and enjoy that funnery. This week, we have some special guests with us. First of all, thank you so much for joining us. Tracy, would you like to introduce yourself and just give me a really quick...
Tell us about you.
Yeah, really quick
Tell
first memory of
About
Megan.
what? I'm scared. Don't ask that.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Go for it. I'm sorry.
Okay, my name is Tracy. I am Megan's East Coast friend, living in Nova Scotia. And we met in 2004. So she's been my main whore since 2004. We met on a Teen Missions International trip where we went to Zambia. Do you want my first memory of her? Because it's a real banger.
Yes, please.
We had all arrived at the Lord's boot camp in Merritt Island, Florida. You fly in, they pick us up in buses or whatever at the airport, get to boot camp, and just the swamp, Everglades, hell, we're all in it. And then the next day, this bitch rolls in, hung over on a special shuttle from the airport because she's fancy and late like that. And my first thought of her was, who is this unicorn and why wasn't she here on time? I love her. I wish I had had another date with her.
Oh, I love that. And that is so true to Megan.
Well, okay. So backstory to that is I did go to ladies' night at the Corral the night before. And then I still had a picture of the male stripper we saw in my wallet. But I was so hungover that 2 days later I was still wearing sunglasses. I was like, please don't
keep the volume down.
Don't speak to me. Yeah. I thought Tracy was super cool. I was like, there's no way she's ever gonna like a little Eeyore like me. I guess I'll just
And then I tiggered into her life and haven't let go since.
Oh my gosh, guys, that's 20 years ago. You are celebrating your 20-year anniversary.
I thought that this morning while I was prepping for this. I was like, that is a long time to be friends, and I love it. We just never let go. Never let go, Jack.
So I was either 18 or 17, almost 18.
I think I was 17, so you were 18. And Jenna was 19. It was just way too close in age to be a leader, for sure.
Yeah.
But Nicole Ammerman was older than her. She was 21, taking direction from this 19-year-old. It was wild.
First of all, the Lord's Boot Camp, how would I even describe it? So Teen Missions International, back in 2004, I don't know what it's like now, but they had how many teams would you say they sent out?
Dozens. The actual teens were our age which were going overseas, those teams. And then they had young ones that were going to Prince Edward Island to convert the heathen Catholics. And they had all age groups, but the actual teen mission groups that were preparing to go save the world, dozens, I'd say, because they did all continents.
Yeah, so
except the Penguins.
America too, and they had a team called Sea Angels or Motorcycle Angels or something like that, and they got to ride around on motorcycles and jet skis.
Stop it. I didn't know that.
First of all.
Our team was kind of we were kind of #respected because we were going to it was seen as more hardcore country.
I would say H core to the max core, yeah.
Yeah.
To go to sub-Saharan Africa.
Yeah.
Wow, AIDS country.
You guys are really in it to win it. And I was like, oh, yeah. Okay, well now I'm nervous. So every day at the Lord's Boot Camp, you'd wake up at whatever it was.
5 or 5:30.
Yeah, how long did they give us to be dressed and be out of our tents?
Oh gosh, it was literally 5 minutes, and I was wrestling to get contacts in for most of that time because we had been playing. They had a lake, a gator infested lake, because we were in the Everglades, the swamps of Florida, and it was so hot. It was like 115 degrees, 100% humidity, like the definition of swamp ass. We had this like canal system and a lake with literal alligators in it, and we were like, we don't care. Like, let us cool down or take us, Lord. Whatever it is, we are in this. And they had
when we were
and they had this like
swimming, it was like hot water. Like the water was
it was like a muddy bath. And we had the blob, you know, one of those big inflatable pillow things that somebody would get on and then somebody would jump off a ladder and launch the person into oblivion. And we were playing on that, like, oh God, our first week there. It was within the first few days, and not even thinking. I have my glasses on, and they fly off my face to the bottom of this muddy canal. Like, they were absorbed, just sunk in the mud within minutes. And I
didn't know
was like -10 prescription. I was blind as a bat. And so I had contacts with me, but not like, I wasn't planning on wearing them every day in the jungle. Right. So then they would wake us up at 5 or 5:30 in the morning and give us literally 5 minutes. Like, we would sleep in our clothes to be ready for this, and like boots on.
And if you weren't out of your tent in 5 minutes, ready to go, like boot everything you need for the day, then they gave you an SB, which stands for special blessing.
Son of a bitch.
I know. Yeah. So special blessing is so you get an hour free time a day. If you have a special blessing, you have to work for that hour.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was not a good, obedient, homeschooled Christian child.
What? I'm shocked.
Right. And I was raised by like a strong feminist mother who don't need no man saying what's what. And I had a lot of issue with the expected, like, I am the leader and I am the head of this household of ragtag children going to Africa, so you shall obey me. And I didn't.
Fuck you, Bill.
Yeah. And so I was like, and this was not just like, I was totally the SB queen. Like, I was the SB queen. They called me that. I think by the end of the trip, I had so many of these special blessings to work off that I was like pumping, like filtering water like 8 hours a day, just like trying to work off these blessings. And they didn't break me. That's what they were trying to do, and they did not break me, because I'm still here.
Yeah, I have to say I did get more special blessings on my first trip. And then, so my second trip was with Tracy. So I think by that time I just had sort of like, I kind of like knew the name of the game and was able to like, not camouflage, but yeah, it was like a bit like a tackle football. I would just dodge.
Yeah.
But also I was out there scooping them all up. So I think you got to just hide behind my badness a little bit too.
Yeah. On my first trip, the one to Brazil, I had an SB every day for maybe at least a month, probably more. And then Tracy had so many that like by the time she went home, she still had some to work off.
Yeah, like I can't, I think there's a warrant out because of like unpaid child support type of thing. Like I owe so many back payments and interest on those now. I don't think I can even go to Florida. I think I would be arrested upon entry.
Arrested upon entry for your SBs.
Yes. Yeah, my debt to the Lord.
So at the Lord's boot camp, the first thing they do is they get you out of your tent. You got to be ready in 5 minutes or you have an SB. Then the first thing they do before breakfast, I just want to say, is they make you run this obstacle course with your team. Oh, God. Yeah.
The OC.
Yeah, the OC.
Which I don't think it was a show yet by that point, or because I feel like we would have referenced it a lot more if that had been a show. But then we would have gotten in
trouble for singing it, because you're not allowed to sing secular songs at Teen Missions International.
Yeah.
If you're singing while you work, they're immediately like, is that a Christian song? And if it's not a Christian song, you get an SB.
Yeah.
I would have been horrible this place. They would have sent me home.
Oh, they tried.
We were in literally like hours and hours into the bush of sub-Saharan Africa. Like, they could not have sent us home if they wanted to. I was like, you're stuck with us. I know I'm jumping ahead in the timeline here, but like when we were in Zambia, like in the bush. They had, I mean, no running water, nothing like that. So we had like these stalls where we could bring buckets of water to bathe ourselves. And I have such vivid memories of Megan and I being in adjacent stalls and her and I singing the Elephant Love Medley or whatever from Moulin Rouge back and forth to each other. And I think the only reason we got away with it is because, like, if you're eavesdropping on us in the shower, first of all,
Yeah.
That makes you look bad.
and we are teenage girls. Like,
I don't think my father, the inventor of the toaster strudel, will be very pleased to hear about this.
oh man.
I remember also you were like, there's a couple of pictures of me in my bra, like trying to sponge bathe myself. And I think it's because Tracy was you were like favorably impressed by the size of my breast. You're like, wow,
Oh my God.
they're big. And you like took a couple of pictures.
I was like, nobody at home will believe me.
I was gonna take it home for a souvenir.
Yeah.
I still have
I saw when I was in Africa.
Oh my God. Okay, before we dive into too much more of the Lord's Boot Camp, I also want you guys to tell me, what is TMI? What made you choose it also?
Okay, so Teen Missions International, it's this interdenominational mission organization. It was founded in, I don't know when, but it's based in Florida. It's run by this guy called Bob Bland, which
we're off to a bad start.
I would have had more fun if it would have been Bob Caliente, I'll tell you that.
We should have called him Bob Caliente while we had the chance. It's very down south, very evangelical.
Very, very Bible Belt, yeah.
Yeah,
very evangelical, whatever they call those religions that takes the Bible literally. It was a lot of that. People who unironically go to the Noah's Ark museum that's built in a lot of that.
Yeah, it was a lot of that. Meanwhile, me and Tracy are like, okay, it's not like the Church of Christ was super liberal, but compared to Teen Missions International, I was coming from the underbelly of the beast, basically.
Yeah. Well, and meanwhile, so my mom's side of the family is Mennonite, and where I grew up in Cape Breton, of course, there's no Mennonite churches. So the closest we could get was United Church of Canada. So I was raised United, which is so far removed from all of this. I had a female minister at the time, and I didn't tell anybody because I would have been probably thrown out too, just for having affiliation with a devil woman like that.
So how did you guys both then choose TMI?
Okay, well, I had been on a TMI trip previous, 2 years ago. So I had connections with people who work for the organization. And so what happened was I had read a bunch of books. This is so embarrassing for me. This is literally so embarrassing for me. I'm embarrassed, but I'm going to say it. I had read a bunch of books on the AIDS epidemic in Africa. And I was like, somebody's got to do something.
It's going to be me, Megan Biggs.
That was your mission?
And I told my dad that I felt called to go, which barf all over myself. And my dad laughed at me. And I got so mad that I went on. I was like, what'd you just say? And my mom was like, go on a walk. You need to go on a walk. You need to go on a walk. And she literally pushed me out of the house before I threw hands with my father. Because he laughed at me when I said I was called to go to Africa and solve the AIDS epidemic.
Oh my God.
So I, like I said, was raised United, where mission trips aren't even a thing. This is not no. And I was friends. So this was in grade 11. So I became pretty close friends with a girl who all of her cousins are in Cape Breton. So she has roots in Cape Breton, but she had been living away somewhere else, still in Nova Scotia for sure, but someplace that wasn't a Catholic island in the North Atlantic. So she had more connections somewhere to a born again praise and worship church, which is so different from everything at home. And so she knew about TMI. Her sister had gone on a trip a few years prior, and we were like totally into listening to like the Newsboys and like, oh no, wait, is that what they're called? Yeah. And like I was like super into the praises and worship that year. And I was like, she talked about TMI, and I was like, oh my God, like we could totally go do something like that. And she was like, yeah, man. And so then like I started, like, because we were both going to go, I started the fundraising and stuff. And then she totally flaked. And I was like, well, I guess I'm fucking going then. And that's how it happened.
Yeah. Oh, that's wild.
Yeah. And so I had no idea what I was getting myself into at all. I had never been to a praise and worship church. Like, I was literally a United Church of Canada, like, let's stand up and sing from this hymnal, and then we'll sit back down and we'll have story time before you go to Sunday school. And like, and I was volunteering, teaching Sunday school by that point. And then I was singing in the church choir, which like I brought the median age of the church choir down by like 45 years when I joined. It was like me and a bunch of almost dead people, but they were so great. But it's like, it's closer to Anglican or Catholic than it would be to anything in the Bible Belt, so it was a huge wake up for me, especially coming from a church where for the most part women have equal rights. And then you get down to the Bible Belt and they're like, no, you don't.
Just kidding.
Not today, Satan.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was a huge reckoning, especially being a very outspoken and opinionated girl, to then have people be like, no, the Lord says to submit. And I'm like, does he? And so then, as you could imagine, I gravitated towards Megan, being Megan. And then also like we had a California girl who was like also kind of like so she was our friend, and then a closeted gay man.
A closeted gay man, and then like a closeted bisexual man.
I was gonna say,
like, 100%. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, but then he absolutely, sir, disengaged from us before the end of the trip because we were just getting everybody in too much trouble.
We were bringing everybody down.
It's true. Only the strong could survive with us, and it was our core four. It was the four of us that made it to the end of the summer. But then it forged these lifelong friendships. Like we all went and hung out in Colorado 4 years later. TMI was it's not like I went through a brochure and tried to find the best missions group. Like it was a friend was like, yeah, my sister did this. And I was like, cool, I would love to go to Africa and we'll do it for Christ, And I was like, oh, and also I can absolutely get help fundraising through church if I do this. Otherwise, like, when would I ever go to Africa? There was a lot of naive and good intentions and also ulterior motives. A lot of ulterior motives too.
I think I definitely did want to get out of town for the summer. I missed the closest of the friendships I had on my first trip, I think.
Yeah. Well, because it's like it's being thrown into the fire together, right? So it forges some pretty hardcore
in the fires of Mount Doom.
Yeah, for real.
Friendship forged. Yeah, so that's why we chose TMI. Okay, so back to a regular day at TMI. Here's what they did. They throw you on this obstacle course. They don't let you have breakfast till after the goddamn thing is over. And what kind of things were there on the obstacle? There was like a rope thing where you had to climb up ropes, where you had to get all the team over this like large thing. And then there was a rope where you had to like swing across the swamp with a rope and jump to the side.
There's alligators.
Well, there was alligators in there. That's why
there was
100% alligators in there. It's like, swing over the alligators. I was like, have you met me? I am there's no fucking way. And I just like would jump in and wait across.
Well, that's the thing. It's like a lot of what was on this obstacle course was upper body strength. And I was like, hi, I'm real chubby. And I had no upper body strength, and it was just impossible. Like there was a large like A-frame rope cargo net type of thing you have to climb over, so that's fine, whatever, you can use your legs on that. But then you had to, they called it the slough, you had to swing across the slough on this rope. And then the very end, there was like tires you had to crawl through and like do football runs through and stuff,
like military training.
And then because it's the Lord's boot camp. And then at the very end they had a 15, 20-foot vertical wall that you were supposed to get the entire team over.
And I was like,
and
that's not going to happen today or
no.
At any time.
No, literally, I never went over that wall. Big Justin tried so hard. He's like, we're going to get you there, Tracy. I was like, no, this is literally dead weight. I'm not even trying anymore because I know this is not going to happen.
I think they were like, Megan, you can do it. And I was like, I have wrists like a bird. I have the wrists.
Snap.
I have the wrists of a hummingbird. There's no way. I have no upper body strength.
And I have the gazoons of a baboon. You had huge titties.
Breasts. Okay, there's no way these breasts are going over that wall.
No, not with those noodle arms.
So would you say there was a time within your first few days of being there that you were like, oh shit, I shouldn't have come?
I think I didn't want to ever like say those words out loud, but I definitely got like kind of like, oh, this is kind of a weird vibe. So the first night when we arrived there, Bill and Cindy picked me up at the airport. And I told them this, like, what I thought was a funny story of how my dad had wrote devil worshiper on my NDP political sign. I was like, yeah, me and my dad don't vote the same. He wrote devil worshiper, and I stuck it in the window, so I got the better of him in the end. And they just looked at me like nobody laughed. I was like, are you kidding me? That story kills at home. That story's a killer at home. Where's my laughs? Anyway, so we get there, we get out of the van, and I kind of like smelled the air, and I was like, oh, it smells like mosquito spray and BO, like really strong, like the permeate odor of the collective BO, because there's no showers there, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's showers, but you're not allowed to use them.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I was like, it smells like mosquito spray and BO. And then Bill like took like a deep inhale. He was like, and then he said, it surely is a blessing from the Lord. And I was like, I'm going to have to leave now.
What does it even mean?
I was like, first of all, who talks like that? And second, like, no.
Just no.
Just no. These are not the blessings of this is not God's dream for humanity. I'm sorry. Like, what the fuck?
I was gonna say for me, yes, absolutely. Because I was just so totally and utterly alone because like dealing like with discomfort through humor. That's like my huge coping mechanism. And all these people were like, just pray it out. And I was like, what? And so until Megan showed up, I was like, what the fuck have I done? And then Megan rolled in, hungover, sunglasses.
I had this giant straw hat, these sunglasses.
And probably like and honestly, like I think probably not even wearing a bra. She's like, it's too much discomfort. And
sounds accurate.
And so then I was like, okay, these are my people, Megan and her titties. And I am going to be fine. Like, as soon as Megan rolled in, I was like, well, first of all, they gave us a list of our teammates, like, you know, the month before leaving.
And there's like a little headshot and stuff. And then it says, like, the person's name and age and where they're from. And I was like looking at them. I was like, well, they look interesting.
Yeah. And so, and I don't know if it's honestly, probably it was so you could start praying for your teammates ahead of time. And I was just like judging everybody. And then
I was like, hate you, hate your hair.
Double hate.
Let me guess, you've got a great personality.
And this bitch, Megan, had her name spelled Maigyn. And I was just like, what in the ever-loving Christ, who named this girl? And so
slut.
The entire time I, like, ahead of it, I was just like, there's no way I'm not going to be friends with this person. And then she rolled in and was like, yeah, no, I thought that was funny. So I spelled it that way. And I've been in love with her ever since. And I still spell her name that way.
I literally was like, I'm going to be so lonely this summer because there's no way that this cool person is going to be friends with me. Because everyone thought that, everyone, like, gravitated to Tracy because she was, like a good time. Yeah. You know? She was, like, funny. And everyone's like, yeah, we need to take the edge off. Where's the humor at? And Tracy's like, I've got it. But then other people would, like, also complain.
Oh, my gosh. Nonstop.
Us. But then, yeah, so
I could see
that was kind of how that happened. And so we had different classes at boot camp as well. Like, we had like a steel time boot camp where they taught us how to steel tie. And then we had like evangelism classes that like taught us, So they had this one class called the Romans Road class. And they had like drama classes. Did we go to any drama classes? Do you remember?
So our whole mission, just to set it up, was called Orphan Camp. So we were going to the wilds of Zambia to work with AIDS orphans. So apparently
Which,
there's
orphan camp is like kind of insulting now that you.
Yeah.
I know, right? In those, like that part of rural Africa, a lot of kids that lose both parents to AIDS just go and live with relatives, aunts and uncles and whatever. And so you have these families just overwhelmed with kids. And so we weren't at orphanages, we were at like support units where people that were in those situations could come and get assistance / the Lord. And so we were going to established rescue units. They call them AIDS orphans rescue units in these different parts of Zambia. So there were other teams, like we had kind of a sister team working in Kenya that was building a new unit, but we were going to established units to do medical camps and then to do agriculture, so gardening, setting up drip irrigation systems, stuff like that, to dig wells. And then
the only thing I remember about any of that is the well part. I'm like, we were there to dig a well. That's all I remember.
Yeah, no. So there, and they have like vacation Bible camp, like evangelism teams. And so I originally was supposed to be on the medical team, and I was like, I ain't cut out for this. And our friend Andrew was at that point considering going to med school, and he had been thrown on the well digging team. And I was just like, can we switch? Because like, not that I have no interest, but like that's clearly more his vibe. So they let us do that, which is shocking now in retrospect, because like they didn't let us do anything. But the biggest thing I remember is we knew kind of what we were going into. And so like I had like work pants, like I had enough gear to do whatever we needed to do. And they made us, before we flew out for Africa, they made us like pare down our belongings.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, Tracy, you're on the medical team, so you're not doing any manual labor. So get rid of all those heavy work pants. And because women have to wear skirts there anyway, because culturally you have to wear skirts. You can't wear pants.
We were allowed to wear pants when we were working if we were doing like construction-y things.
Manual labor, yeah.
Otherwise,
so they were like,
skirts.
Yeah. So they were like, yeah, you're not going to be doing manual labor, so you can just get rid of those. So I was like, all right. So all of these like super expensive, like Dickies work pants that I had invested in, I just left for whomever in Florida. And
wait, you didn't even get them back?
No. And so I went with all these easy breezy friggin' ankle length skirts and was digging wells in them. It was ridiculous. But looking back now, I was like, we were so far into the woods. Like, we wouldn't have offended anybody culturally. That was absolutely just control over the girls of having us dress like women.
Yeah. I don't think they would have cared if we like didn't wear skirts.
No, not at all. Especially if we were there to help them. You know what I mean? What are they going to do?
Yeah. Get the fuck out of here with your legs. We can see the shape of your bum.
Okay, so other than well work, like what was your main thing that you did?
So well work was the main thing for me, but Tyler Crone, one of our leaders, dubbed me the anti-help because I was just a hot mess. Like I just wasn't good at anything. I was like, you guys, this is not for me. And so another thing that we did is we would put on Jesus films in the evening. I think TMI produced these films.
Yeah, just evangelical propaganda.
Yeah, where did they get the actors to make these films? I have so many questions.
I know, right?
We had these films that we would play in the evenings, and I don't know, like, did we invite the villagers? Were we like, you have to come watch this, Jesus? Like, how did that happen?
Well, I feel like it was such a novelty for a lot of these people who don't have electricity for the most part. And I think they would have come out and watched anything, you know? We got way off topic, and we did. We were talking about classes at boot camp, and the whole thing we were just getting into was for the vacation Bible camp section, the preaching and conversion and evangelizing.
Romans,
we did a lot of
classes.
No, we did puppetry. And so we had puppet shows. So we had these classes to learn the music and stuff for these productions.
Yeah.
And the choreography. You weren't allowed to call it dancing because dancing is a sinful.
We're not allowed to dance on TMI.
No.
Right.
So, but you could learn the choreography for these song and dance numbers to convert the people, tell them how great the Jesus is. And then we had bricklaying classes
Yeah.
for the
I
well
honestly
team.
was awesome at those classes.
Yeah.
Rick,
And then
sign me up.
and we had some like light first aid classes for the medical team. So it was essentially these breakout classes for training us for whatever section of mission we had. So we had collective classes where we were all learning stuff together and Bible study and stuff like that. And then we had our breakout training classes. Yeah, we would start every day running the OC together and then eat some gruel in the woods and then break out and do these classes. And then
they also put us into this. So there's like a 24-hour prayer vigil at TMI. And so once a day, one member of the team would be like, you have to go to this like isolated area and pray for an hour.
I totally forgot about that.
Well, I never.
Oh man.
And there is also this aspect to it with these Bible verses. They have like a set number of Bible verses. You have to learn one each day.
Yeah.
And then there's like a quiz off at the end. And if you didn't learn your Bible verses, then you would get SB for that.
Right.
Punished.
Yeah. I still have them. They're like business card sized little cards with these Bible verses on them. And we had like a little plasticky holder for them. And you had to go through and be able to like, at the snap of a finger, rhyme them off. They would be like, like Romans 11:12, and you'd have to like just spit back this Bible verse at them. And it was wild. Like I have an incredible memory I was a drama kid, right? So I had a good memory for memorizing stuff like this, and especially visually, like I'm a photographic memory. I just nailed those, and I think it infuriated the leadership who hated me. And I think I either won or got very close to winning that whole Bible verse off. And it was such a moment of triumph because like, fuck you,
And the other thing they did was they had these rallies in the evening. So like they had this thing called the Big Tent, and everyone and you would sit with your team in your team section, and all the teams would go in, and there would be like a speaker, and then there'd be like altar calls every night for 2 weeks straight. Like, what the fuck? And you're supposed to come up with like a team song every night. And so then so one night we thought it would be funny to do. So instead of I like big butts, we changed it to I like boot camp. And I cannot lie. And we got in so much trouble that we got like,
and that like I don't have any memory of this, but just hearing this story, 100% that was me and you, Megan. Like there's no way it wasn't.
Oh, it was you. I think you got in the most trouble for it. I was just like, yeah, this seems fun. But I guess like they were like, the reason we got in trouble was like, well, it reminded people about big butts, and you cost.
I'm just like, have you seen me walking around? They don't need a song for that.
They had like this speaker come in who was part of this organization to quote unquote help LGBTQ youth. And he was like, yeah, I was gay and I went on a teen missions trip. No. And then he's like, but I just want you to know that there's salvation for you, the gay kids, as long as you don't practice. And it'd be like, all gay kids come to the front so you can receive forgiveness for your sins.
Oh my God.
And so this same guy put out like a statement years later that he was like an atheist now, and he like completely renounces everything that he did with this organization, and it was wrong of him, etc., etc.
Well, that's nice that he did that.
Yeah, but I'm like,
jeez,
how much damage did you do?
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah. So then after a while, we were allowed to leave. Like after 2 weeks, we were allowed to leave boot camp. But there was like an interim of time between when our plane left. So we were in Florida. Our plane was leaving from Newark, New Jersey, I think.
Yes, it was. Yeah. And we had to take a bus up the eastern seaboard to fly out of Newark. Because why?
And we stayed at this place. I forget what it was. And one night the team decided, some of the people on the team decided to like kidnap Tracy. I don't know. They like tied her up in duct tape and stuff. I don't remember why.
It was in Pennsylvania, I think. It was in a cornfield for sure. And that was like I brush things off pretty well.
Yeah.
But that was awful. Like, that was pretty traumatizing.
Yeah.
I've blocked, like, you speaking about it, I'm like, oh yeah, that did happen. Like, I don't dwell on it and think about it, but yeah, that was like,
I didn't even know what was happening. I was just like, what's everyone doing?
That is super fucked up.
So bizarre.
And that was Big Justin was the driving force behind that. But you know what? Literally, I don't think anybody got in trouble for doing that. I think that's what was the most traumatizing thing about that for me. No, like, there was no backlash for any of those people. I think the leadership was just like, oh, haha, LOL, because I was such a bad kid.
Yeah.
That I think it might have been like, maybe this'll put some of the fear of God into her or something, or like, oh, she deserved that. I don't know. It was fucked up.
So wait, before we get to funny stories and whatnot, I also want to know, how did you guys encounter misogyny on your mission trip?
Oh my God. Do you want me to answer chronologically or alphabetically?
Yeah. How didn't we?
How didn't we? Okay, so first of all, they have these things called GG classes, what did GG stand for? Do you remember?
This is a throwback. Hold on. Grubby to Grace. And then, or
Grubby to Grace?
Yeah, I'm looking on teenmissions.org. GG is Grubby to Grace and God's Gentlement classes.
What the fuck? We had these classes once a day, and they would be like, for us, it was always about the Proverbs 31 woman. That by the end of that, I was just like, if I have to hear one more fucking word about the P31, I'm gonna throw hands. Like, don't you ever. But like, they also failed to mention that the P31 woman had like so many servants. But in the classes, we were like you're expected to be like this woman in Proverbs 31 who knows how to sew and shit. And I was like,
sew and keep her mouth shut.
Yeah. So we had those classes, which was very like, so they separated the boys and girls classes. I don't know what they talked about the boys classes. Probably something interesting. In the girls class, it was like, you need to act like a lady.
Yeah, it was literally about how to be quiet and how to serve your husband and how to be obedient and how to honor God by doing all these things. And that if you didn't do all these things, like, what a dishonor to God. And like, it was really messed up. And all the other girls on our team were like, ate it up.
They were like, yes, queen. And I was like,
this is exactly what I learned in my homeschool classes as well.
And they also had, so for example, the guy leaders were always in charge of like the work sites, the construction, everything else. The women leaders aren't allowed to do anything except be in charge of the kitchen.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Now I kind of want to go on one of these. I will tear it apart from the inside out.
Yeah.
We'll have to start a new branch, though, to be Adult Missions International.
Right.
Because I think we've aged out a bit.
What other things were there? Girls were really harped on for like what we were allowed to wear and what we were not allowed to wear.
Right.
Like, we're only allowed to wear one pieces. If you raise your hands above your head in your midriff shows, you failed the hallelujah test.
Right.
And I got reprimanded for my clothing being too tight by a man who looked like his jeans had been literally painted on.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I was like, don't talk to me about tight pants, Bill. We all see we don't see your ass. You're dressing like you want it.
I think the whole thing was, everything was about policing the girls while the boys could just do no wrong and do whatever they want.
Yeah.
That was a big thing. So it was like, the entire thing was misogynist. Like, and the leader, Bill, and his wife, Cindy, they were the ideal married couple. Like, they were the be all and end all. This is exactly what you want to aspire to.
Yeah.
While honoring God in your relationship, in your marriage. It was fucked. He was so awful to her.
Yeah. Do you remember any incidences of like interactions between them where you're like, oh, that's not okay?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So many that I can't even think of one, like, it was just constant. I think probably like, if ever because she was a leader as well. I think they were supposed to be like equal leaders on this trip.
Yeah.
But because he's the head of the household and the head of the marriage, I think if she ever tried to get too big for her britches, like in running the team, that he would kind of reprimand her back and like, well, I'll handle this type of.
Yeah. Don't you
Woof.
dare. And I think she like really internalized and like took it out on us because she was like,
Oh yeah,
she was not nice to us. Like
well,
she was
and
really
I
being
think
cantankerous, and I was like, okay, like what did I?
well, and I think it was like, yes, because we were doing kind of like not what they wanted us to do, but also we were doing a lot of things that she is not allowed to do in her relationship.
Yeah.
And I think that probably triggered her quite a bit.
Hashtag triggered by Tracy and Megan, the Cindy Griffin story. I'm trying to remember if there was any moments where I was like, you know, Cindy's not so bad, but I actually don't think I ever had a moment like that with her or with Bill.
I don't know if it was at the time, but definitely reflecting since, like, I just felt bad for her because you get so deep into these mindsets that you're just kicked into survival mode, right? Like she has to do things this way. So like, that's how it is. So I'm going to do it and I'm going to like lean into it. I don't know. Like she was protecting herself as well by being the best wife she could be and not upsetting Bill. Cause then that would come back on her. Right. Like, I don't know.
The other thing that we found was like, this is just a for example. I think it was like girls were seen as more sexual than guys in a way. Cause it was like, so for example, we would put on these like little skits for the kids where we had to be clowns.
Right.
Which,
did
like,
you dance?
Oh, we didn't dance. We did choreography. Anyway,
we choreographed hard.
There's a rule that women are not allowed, girls were not allowed to put clown makeup on the boys because that would be touching their face, which would lead to feelings of wanting to fuck them, I guess. I don't know. Okay. And there is another rule that you're not allowed to hug guys for longer than 3 seconds. So Tracy and Andrew's wildly gay.
Yes.
They used to like, they would hug and then they would yell 1, 2, 3, and then they would like leap apart.
Man, I have the best like high school sweetheart pictures with him where we were like canoodling at the well. I think you probably took the pictures, Megan. It's one of my most beloved photo memories of this entire trip because it was like just in their face, like, fuck you. Like, I love this man and I'm going to canoodle with him because I do love him so much. So I'm just so glad I have that memory of that, but also fuck you guys.
Yeah, for sure. And so there was like those kinds of things where like girls and boys like basically weren't allowed to interact at all. And another thing that happened where we were like, oh, that's weird. So one night we got split up somehow, and there was a group of like 4 or 5 of us with Jenna Bjorn, who we call Jenna Bjorn Star.
Ooh, we got in so much trouble for that.
We did. So we were at one site and the rest of the team is at the other site. And
I will tell you how this happened.
Bill and Cindy were gone. We were having a great time. And then we found Jenna's leader handbook and we decided to read it. And we were like literally sobbing at the shit that was in this leader's handbook. And one of the things that was in this leader's handbook was nudity is rebellion, all caps, underlined, bold. So basically saying like the girls and boys can't ever shower naked because then the other gender will know that they're showering naked and then they'll think about them naked.
How dare.
Yeah. Do you remember this, Tracy?
I think I've blocked out a lot of them. Because you saying this, I'm like, oh yeah. But I never would have been able to recall that memory by myself.
Yeah, it was like double underlined. So then after, we thought it was so funny, we were like screaming, holding each other, crying. And so the next time, how quote unquote showers worked in Zambia was everyone had a little bucket and there was little stalls, but like the bathrooms were together so we could like hear each other. So me and Tracy would go into a stall and then we'd yell, "I'm naked, think about it."
I always do.
I forget what else was in the leader's handbook, but I'm pretty sure there was some pretty reprehensible shit in there as well.
Yeah. The whole thing was that girls were always in the wrong. No matter what happened, it was always on the girls to remove temptation or not have temptation there in the first place. The boys would never do any wrong. Like, that's just how boys are wired. But the girls have to make sure that they police their bodies and police their actions so as not to trigger the boys. And it was just so messed up. Everything was from that point of view and that mindset. So the entire trip and the entire organization is structured that way. So yeah, it was exhausting. I'm just tired thinking about it.
Oh my God.
Like,
What were some of your like funniest moments that will forever stay in your head?
Do you remember? I don't remember why this was funny. Like, I don't even remember, but do you remember Harold?
the slug.
Yeah. I don't know how this happened. Like, so we had a layover in Ethiopia for 3 days.
Oh my God.
And it wasn't supposed to be. We were
That's
supposed
not a
to be in
layover.
and out.
That's a
Yeah,
trip.
No, it was
Yeah.
there
was a
was like
flight.
a mechanical issue or something, and like our flight just got canceled. And so, and I've been describing it this way for years, but they put us up in like a sleazy backwater hotel that was bad, like by Ethiopian standards. And it was like, so, and we were right in Addis Ababa. Like it was a bad scene in a bad
It
neighborhood.
was like, there was like a toenail on someone's bread that they were eating.
No.
And then they told us, drink the water. It's fine. You can drink the water. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. Everyone who drank the water got like so ill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This also happened one morning. Tracy was going to like leaving her hotel room, going down, and like, what? How did this happen again? Like,
Yeah, no. So we were all heading down to breakfast, and I had been getting ready in my room, or I was just getting some stuff together. And Big Justin and Andrew, who had a black belt in like karate or taekwondo or something, had just left. Like they were there waiting for me, and I was like, guys, I'm almost done. Like I'll follow you down. And I was trying to get the door locked because this hotel was so crap. Like they had like physical metal, like skeleton key looking keys for the door.
yeah.
And I was trying to get my door locked. And a man came up and was just trying to have sex. Like he wanted to have sex with me. And I'm this 17-year-old girl, like horrified. And he was like, no, it's okay. It's okay. I'm like, no, the fuck, it's not okay. And he started to, he's like, I'm still trying to get this door locked because, you're in these fight or flight or freeze situations, and the wrong stuff gets prioritized. It's like, I gotta get this door locked. And I did, thankfully. And then he was trying to drag me down the hall to his room, and I managed to twist out of his grasp, and I booked her downstairs. And then from then on, it was, oh, nobody can be alone. I was like, yeah, think? Like, why didn't I think of it sooner?
Yeah.
I mean, especially like as a 17-year-old who grew up, like is growing up in a very safe. Well, and I grew Cape Breton Island, man. Like it's safe. Yeah. It's so safe where I grew up. You don't even think, right? Like, we're in a completely different culture, like just different mindsets, different thoughts, and in a massive city. And man, that was easy pickings. Like we were so fucking dumb.
So then it was like girls aren't allowed to go anywhere by themselves. They also have to have a man with them. But then there was how many guys was there on the team? Like 4 or 5.
Oh gosh.
And then
there was Big Justin and Little Justin. There was Andrew. There was,
as we called them.
There was John. And then there was that it? Maybe that was it. Was it just and Andrew? So 5. Yeah.
And then the rest I think how many people was there on the team? Like 32?
Something like that. Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, so we just like didn't go anywhere. We just were like, okay. And then me and Tracy got into trouble so there was this one girl named Kristen, and we were like making fun of her and farting on her bed and stuff. And then we got separated for 3 days, and that was the first time we got separated.
Oh my God.
So they would
but it wouldn't be the last.
It wouldn't be the last. So they would sit us down and they'd be like, you guys are causing too much trouble, like this is crazy. Normally we'd send you home, but we can't do that because we're miles into the African bush. So what we're gonna do is you guys just aren't allowed to talk to each other, look at each other, or like think about each other for like 3 days. I was like,
I was like, good luck stopping me.
Then I would like go hang out with like someone who I liked, but not as much as Tracy. So I like go hang out with Ashley. Ashley was fun before she became super conservative after we left the trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was this one
Which happened to a lot of them.
that really like just got under my skin. One time she like made a comment and I was like, "Oh, you're so funny." And then Ashley was like, funny enough for me to hit on the back of the head with a shovel. Okay, so there was a slug that Tracy named Harold in her shower, and then we had a field day with that one.
Yeah. So in this awful hotel in Ethiopia, there was this massive slug in my shower, and I think we flushed him or we'd washed him in the drain, and then the motherfucker came back. Like it happened more than once, and so it was just we would just be like, "I'm Harold." Like we had a whole voice for him.
We had a voice for him. We had like a picture of him. We had like a whole he had a backstory. Like
it was just really, really juvenile, like high school bullshit. And I think we really leaned into it because it was well, and it helped distract us from the horrifying reality of where we were and that we were stuck in Ethiopia, unplanned in a very unsafe hotel, and we were just waiting to get out.
Yeah.
And so it was horrifying. Like we had an awful experience in Ethiopia on the way down. Yeah. And then our debrief, like after our summer in Zambia, our debrief was supposed to be for a week in Ethiopia.
Yeah.
And so we were all just terrified to go back. And then on the way back, we were like, because it was planned, we were set up in a seminary.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful,
it was like locked and controlled and
walled compound, beautiful gardens. There was a cafe in the middle of it with like the best espresso you'll have in your life because you're in Ethiopia.
Oh, yeah.
And they had the best donuts. Oh my God, the donuts were so good. And it was glorious. We didn't want to leave. I'm so glad we had that second experience, or else I would still have a really negative feeling about Ethiopia, but it's great.
Okay, so I just remember from our trip back that everything was they deep fried anything that would stand still long enough.
Oh, it was amazing.
And then they were like Ethiopian food. And then when I got diarrhea, obviously, but when I got home and someone, because I had never eaten Ethiopian, they'd be like, "Do you want to go up for Ethiopian food?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I love deep fried stuff." And they're like, "That's not what." Who was in charge of the meals at this camp? I need answers. Were they just like, this is what the Americans will like? Like, what's
probably?
I mean, were they wrong?
They were not.
As I was getting to know and getting to love Megan in Florida, because we were on Merritt Island, which is really close to Cape Canaveral, and so they had this massive tank, almost like a brewing tank or whatever, and they would make this huge milkshake in it, and they sent somebody in an astronaut suit. I think it was an actual astronaut from NASA or retired, and they had this dude in a suit and sent him into the milkshake to stir it with his body. I don't know. It was so weird. But we were getting the grossest food at this boot camp. We were all like, yes, something that'll actually be good. This man-stirred milkshake.
Milkshake brung all the boys to the milkshake.
And so we were all in line for this milkshake, and Megan, who is horrifically lactose intolerant, and the leaders knew it, were like, "No, Megan," and she was like, "LOL, okay," and still slinked into line and got it, and was just farting up the tents and shitting her brains out later, and just I have such vivid memories of her any chance she could get sneaking dairy, whether it be the mac and cheese or milkshakes or ice cream for dessert, and getting so sick every time, just being like, it's worth it.
It's worth it.
And 20 years later, she's still doing the same thing.
Yeah. I was going to say, to be very honest, it has not changed in 20 years. Nearer to the end of the summer, I was the SB queen, the special blessing queen. And I had so many to work off. And so me and little Justin, who was the SB king of the summer.
Oh, I have a story about Justin. Okay, remind me after. Keep going.
They told us to go and just start digging this hole. Like, they gave us dimensions, and they were like, yeah, just dig a hole that is this big. And I was like,
Okay.
and, square off the edges, like very specific details about this hole. And I was like, ugh. I was like, is this a character hole? Like, are we digging this to build character? Because I'm not about this life. Like, let me pump water at least. Like, let's doing something. Like, I don't want to build a character hole. And they were like, no, just do it. You don't need to know the answers to everything of why you need to do it. Like, essentially just, pray and obey, like, so we did it and thought it was just, he and I just talked so much shit because it was hours of digging. It turned out to be for doing a roast pig where they, have charcoal in the ground and put the pig in and cover it with banana leaves and all of that.
Yeah.
And whoever was in charge of, and we slaughtered the pig. Like, they brought a live pig into camp. And then we teenagers slaughtered the pig. Very Lord of the Flies.
Lord of the Flies.
Yeah. And now, like, I've been vegan for 15 years, and I don't think that that's any small coincidence, And so I was already like, oh, like, this sacrifice of this animal. And then whoever was in charge of the roast did it wrong. And the charcoal went out and the pig spoiled because it was supposed to cook for a couple days.
Yeah.
And it was a total waste. Couldn't do it anyway. It was just so fucked up. And I wouldn't have been surprised if they would have told me to dig a character hole because I had so many of these special blessings to work off that they were just like, we got to get her to do something.
So another thing that Tracy, well, I do this with all my friends actually, but like you kind of like mispronounce words for the walls.
Yeah.
Like, so for example, and I still do this to this day.
Oh, I know this story. You're gonna
we would pronounce cake like cack.
Yes, always.
So one night, me and Tracy are like, okay, so first of all, you have to know, little Justin was so sweet and so nice. He was like, he reminded me of Kevin. He was like very little brother.
Yeah.
He was like,
and he was younger than everybody. He was one
like,
of the youngest people on the team.
He was like 13 or 14, just like the cutest. And so anyways, me and Tracy are waiting around for cake after dinner, and he just casually strolls up to us and was like, hey, you guys waiting for some cack? And then he realized what he had said. He became instantly so shocked and repulsed at what he had done.
And red, beat red.
He like went beat red, clapped his hands over his mouth, and was like, you guys, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, you guys. You guys, I'm so sorry.
And I was like, but the answer is yes.
How long we gotta wait?
Not till marriage.
Oh my god.
I say this as my bastard child is running around downstairs.
So in retrospect, do you regret going? And also with that, did the trip actually benefit the people it was intended to?
Oh, 100% no. First of all, the well that we were building fell in.
You had one job.
We had one job. We failed. Second of all, like we would go to these orphan rescue units and we would use up their resources.
It's true.
Like however many, 30 of us, there's like one water well and all the villagers are like going to get their water and we had already drunk it. And so this happened when I was on kitchen patrol one day. So one of the things that you had to do on kitchen patrol in these orphan rescue units was you had to pump the water through a filter because otherwise we would get sick.
Right.
Because we're like not used to it, or I don't know. Anyways, we had to pump it. So I'm doing this. And we had just taken the last of the water from the well. And a little orphan child comes up to me and she says, water, please? Water, please? And Ashley says, I don't know, we better ask Cindy. And I said, okay, so like, I don't know. I'm a child at this. Like, I'm a minor, I don't know what the fuck is going on. So I asked Cindy, can we give this child some water? And she says, no, because that's, teaching them to fish for a day.
What?
Yeah. She was like,
I didn't know that.
It was like, it won't be a good thing in the long run for them. So we're not going to give them any water.
Isn't it their well?
I realized that afterwards. I was like, so let me get this straight. So I tell this child, I'm sorry, we can't give you any water. She goes, oh, okay. She kind of walks away. And then later I realized we went to this village full of orphans. We used up all of their water. And then we told them that they couldn't have any of their own water because that would be like enabling them.
But don't worry, we gave them the Lord.
Yeah. So
Oh.
I have like lived with that on my conscience ever since. Like that is so haunting to me that I did that. I'm just like, oh. But I also like I feel like, not to make excuses, but as an explanation, I was just doing like what I was told to do.
Mm.
I didn't know to like, that's a hill you should die on.
Yeah.
I didn't know that I should have fought back more.
But also, we had just spent, because that was near the end of the summer, we had also just spent the previous like 8 weeks trying to have that will beaten out of us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're watching me pumping water off to the side because I'm working off these goddamn extra blessings.
Yeah.
And you're also trying to avoid that. So,
I think it was I was a shit disturber, make no mistake. But I also really value the group, and I really value community. So in a weird way, I did value like harmony and everyone getting along. So I was like, I was trying to make like, I'm cool, we're all cool, everyone's cool, but everyone was not cool.
No. Well, and like I have a vivid memory of because I was a shit disturber, and like I would be more likely to push back against something because I value the opinions of people I respect and of my friends. But if you aren't either of those things, kind of like, what do I care what your opinion is? Which is a place that Meg and I differ quite a bit. I remember just stirring some shit up about something. And in a fit of rage, the head leader, Bill, was just yelled at me in front of everybody and was just like, you know what you are? You are a catalyst.
And then
just always starting
acid. So like,
what?
No, he said the one of us was the acid and the other was the catalyst. Do you remember who?
I remember being called the catalyst. So, and then
the
one thing that saved that entire summer for me, and made me not want to be like, I'm burning this organization to the ground, was the one Canadian leader that we had was the sweetest man named Tyler Crone, who to this day remains a dear friend of both of us. And we are fully obsessed and in love with his wife as well, who married after the fact.
Yeah.
And we visit them any chance we get. So Bill, in front of everybody, had just chastised me and called me a catalyst. And right after that, Tyler pulled me aside and went, do you know who else was the catalyst? Jesus. And I was like, God bless you. Like the fact that, sometimes you need shit disturbers, but also who is this guy to pass that judgment on you, you know?
Yeah.
And that saved it for me. I was like, okay, not all of these Christian quote unquote leaders are assholes, just this fucking guy that we're dealing with, and the rest. Like there are good people here also caught up in this. And so that's the biggest takeaway for me, like of the do you regret going? Like, no, I don't, because my life is so much richer for having Megan in it. And for having Tyler Crone, and now by extension his wife Rachel, and just having those three people. Just having those three people alone made the entire hell of that summer worth it. Yeah. But also, I mean, I got to see things I would never have seen otherwise, and experience things that I haven't experienced since. And like, if it's like disgustingly so to look back on it now, like, it was a lot of voluntourism for like all of us being there, like, we wanted to go.
It was a lot of white saviorism. It was a lot of misogyny. It was a lot of white centering. It was a lot of everything. But
which, like, us at the time, we don't know any better. Also, 20 years ago, none of this was even a thing that was being discussed. And nobody was aware or cognizant of it. But like, the big thing that's disgusting now is that 20 years later, TMI is still exactly the same, and they're still selling these packages.
Now there's a lot less teams that go out.
Really?
Their numbers have way declined, and I was like, well, I mean, but another thing that happened was so Bill and Cindy worked for TMI, and so did my former leader Mike, who I'm still friends with to this day, despite our differing political views. Anyways, Bill came up to me during the trip and was like, do you know what Mike said to me? And I was like, no. And he was like, Mike said you are going to learn to love Megan. And I was like, okay, why are you telling me this? Yeah. And are you saying that like you have learned to love me? Or are you saying that everyone like I'm an acquired taste? Like what are you
What are you saying?
Are you trying to put me down? Or are you trying to be like it's okay because I love you? I just had to learn how to do it. It was super hard, but I got there in the end. Like that's so fucked up to say to a kid. Like it's very emotionally manipulative. I was like,
oh
okay.
yeah.
Like, no, thank you. So another thing that happened with leaders, this is like a very funny story to me. Okay, so we had stopped somewhere when we were traveling to New Jersey, and I really wanted so it was like so hot in Florida, so hot. And then as soon as we left, it was like, oh, it's like getting cold at night actually. It was freezing by comparison in New Jersey. And so we stopped at this place and I was like, I really need a pair of sweatpants. So we
It was Target. It was Target.
And Tyler was like, you have to be back at the bus by this certain time, and Tracy's
like 10 minutes.
She was like, just grab
we had like 10 minutes.
Yeah, so I grabbed a pair of sweatpants. I ran back to the bus. I didn't even look at them. I was like, great sweatpants, great, we love it. And I showed up, and Tyler's like,
got that big dick energy. Get those gray sweatpants.
Yeah, and Tyler was like, you're like, you get an SB. I was like, I was on my period. I had a period problem. I had blood. And then he was like, oh, I don't want to know. And then he didn't give me an SB. And then later, I didn't like.
Speaking of manipulation,
I still haven't really looked at the sweatpants. I put them on.
Yeah.
And then Jeremiah.
Oh, there's another man that was on the trip. Jeremiah, we forgot about
we forgot Jeremiah. Oh my God. Jeremiah takes a look at me and was like, hey, baby girl. And I was like, what are you I was like, why did you just call me baby girl? And then I look around on my arms, baby, like glittering bold capital letters on the ass, baby girl.
And to this day, I still call Megan baby girl. Oh, baby girl, baby girl, baby girl, baby girl. And she got in so much trouble for it.
Were you trying to be a slut?
Are you trying to draw male gaze to your ass? I'm like, the only males that are going to be checking out this glitter rhinestone situation are the male gaze. I'll tell you that.
Like it said, I like butt stuff. It just said baby girl.
But I mean, also. Yeah, so no, don't regret going, and no,
like, if I had
nothing
my
that
own
we did.
Would not send, would not, absolutely not, no. But I am super, super grateful from the relationships from that trip, I think.
Mostly. Yeah, I think the only thing that may have been slightly beneficial were the drip irrigation systems we gave out for the gardening, because we had an agriculture team that set up these drip irrigation watering systems for gardens. And like those,
we did something.
Yeah, I think, but like I think they had us making bricks, or it was a team prior to ours that made bricks that we were supposed to brick the well with. And we dug a well and the bricks failed and the entire thing collapsed in.
Yeah.
And so we did all this work, and then we know a team of TMI volunteers, adults, would have to go back in and fix that later.
Yeah, there was like this big lecture, like, because we were like, we did it, we finished this well. And then Bill was like, this is Jesus calling us to account for how proud we were. Pride goeth before a fall. And I 100% bought in. I was like, yes, Jesus has humbled us. Praise, blessed be the name of the Lord. Like, I was in it to win it at that point.
Oh man, they did so much. They did so much stuff like that. Like, we were traveling around a team of like between 35 and 40 people, counting the leaders, and all of our gear to like wild wilderness camp deep in the African bush, in a 5-ton truck. And everybody was just sandwiched in the back. Like, we were riding on top of gear in the back of this truck.
That was not a good time for me.
And we kept getting flat tires, and we like kept having engine problems. And they were like, this is spiritual warfare. This is Satan out to stop us from doing our duty to the Lord and spreading God's word. And I was like, this is because we have 40 people and a summer's worth of gear riding in a fucking 5-ton. Like, it was so messed up. And that's when I was just like,
they don't know how to be good truckers like we do, Tracy.
No, I think that was a big moment for me of being like, these people are whack. Like,
I
wiggity
was
whack.
like-
No, not regular type.
I was like, I don't think my father, the pivotal driver of the 21st century, would be too pleased to hear about.
Yeah. Ruby was just beating down my door, my child that I had out of wedlock. Do you want to say hi to Auntie Megan? Oh, your purse. Do you want to know what's in her purse? Do you want to know her form of currency?
Yeah, hit me.
It's full of rubber ducks. It's an entire purse of rubber ducks.
Hi, Ruby.
Hi.
It's great to see you. I like your purse.
What are you doing?
What are we doing? We were trying to have a conversation.
Oh,
Yeah, and then you burst the door down.
I love you. Bye. Say bye, Megan.
bye.
Great job, everyone.
We definitely went on tangents.
Thanks for coming on my social experiment podcast, Tracy.
I love it, and I love you. Thank
I
you for
love
having
you.
me.
This will be the first podcast episode that you'll listen to.
I love you, and I love our 20 years of friendship, and I'm so glad you're in my life.
I was just a
For this
vehicle.
podcast.
I was just a vehicle for satanic influences at that point.
Honestly, baby, open up that hatchback. I'm coming in for a ride.
Sane checked in to see if I was down to clown. I was like, here we go.
Hard same.
I'll talk to you later.
I love you, darling.
Bye.